Welcome to Rolling Stories, the podcast that dives deep into the world of human resources, sharing insights and experiences from industry leaders for HR by HR. I'm your host, Khim Tan. Today, I'm excited to welcome Khim Tan, a seasoned HR leader who has transitioned into the academia and is currently exploring the impact of AI on the workforce. Khim has a rich background in various sectors, including banking and FMCG, and has been instrumental in driving HR initiatives that align with business goals. In this episode, we'll discuss the importance of adaptability in HR, the critical trends shaping the future of work, and how organizations can prepare for all these shifts. Khim will also share valuable insights from her recent experiences at numerous conferences where she's been at the forefront of discussion on AI, sustainability, and the evolving workspace. Whether you're a seasoned professional or an aspiring HR professional, there's a wealth of knowledge to be gleaned from our conversation today. Let's dive in. Khim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adrian, for your time. I'm really honored and appreciative of this invitation by Rolling Aries. It's my first time doing a video recording. I've done podcasts audio once, but not this will be the first time.
It's going to be a piece of cake for you. So appreciate you coming onto the show. I know it took quite a few twists and turns before we managed to get our calendar sync up due to your busy schedule, but I'm very happy that we are finally able to speak. To begin with, could you let our viewers and listeners know a bit about yourself?
I started my career doing public relations officer. I started as that after I graduated. Then 6 months before I could complete my probation, I told my boss, please stop, don't confirm me. I've got an offer from a large bank, right? And that's where I want to go. At that point of time, it was in early 90s, so you can tell my age. So in the early 90s, banking was still the preferred organization. So I had an option to go there as a management trainee. So I hopped on. Then I was there for actually good 7 years. My first 2 years was as a bank officer, really. And then there was one time when I was trying to, get approval for some kind of recognition for my team and I didn't get it. I appealed and I didn't get it. Then I told my branch manager, I am going to HR and change the policy. And that's how I landed in HR all these years for 30 over years. And I've been in banking, stockbroking, mostly financial institutions, insurance. So I've covered almost all the financial institutions. I've done FMCG, that was PAT, and then PricewaterhouseCoopers. I've been with Maybank, Alliance Bank, and also PricewaterhouseCoopers. I've been in many organizations that I find that I tend to stay longer in organizations that's value-driven or purpose-driven. I find that that's where learning is. They are very passionate about developing people and about high value in terms of how they run their business and deal with their customers. So I think that's how I'm actually fascinated by those kind of organizations. On the social front, of late, I was just saying to you just now, right? I've been busy, and I've been busy with like almost 13 conferences, I've been attending 13 conferences and podcasts in this half year. So I was just saying, in the last half year, I've been busy with almost 13 podcasts and conferences, HR conferences. In February, I started my PhD classes and decided to depart from the corporate world. Now I'm into academics and doing some other freelance projects, training, coaching, and mentoring. Just before I left the bank, Alliance Bank, that's how I know Rolling Aries, because they help us with this digital transformation for my HR team. And that's how I get to know Rolling Aries. And we've been friends ever since.
I have a few questions that I'd like to touch on given your background. Firstly, most of the HR people I know, or whether they are at manager level, VP, senior VP, or CHRO, actually started as HR from day one, right after university. I'm always fascinated to hear the perspective of people who started elsewhere. In your case, PR. I've known people who started as engineer, as IT, etc. And of course, in your case, not just PR, also banking. Do you think those early days experience bring a different lens to how you operate as a senior HR leader?
Oh, it definitely gives a different perspective. I recall that even as a very junior executive, when I moved on to HR, right, I become so-called advisor to my other fellow colleagues who have been in HR since day one, right? Because the lens I bring in is more onto the business on the ground. And I will advise them that, will this work or will this not work? And would this be effective or would it not be effective? Being with the business, I was in banking operations for 2 to 3 years. So that actually does give me perspective as to, what what make the people on the ground tick, what are the challenges, what are their needs, and then how to address them or how to collaborate with them. So I think it's really important. And even let's say someone were to embark into HR profession from day one without having been into the business, right, or on the other side, it's never too late because some organizations, they are very proactive in terms of enabling their HR professionals. For example, even when I was in BAT, we were expected to follow the vans of the sales guys and just to watch and observe how they do their sales for the day. So I think is not a loss. Even if you're not been into the business, you can actually get that through intentional kind of intervention or immersive programs with the business. So no loss at all, I think.
So to be clear, the HR at BAT are told to sidekick the salespeople when they go out.
As part of our learning to understand the business, we are expected to join them for their market events, join them for their sales activities. And I think, as HR, you can't be an armchair so-called scientist or anthropologist or, a
Yep.
practitioner. You need to go out, listen to them, understand their needs, challenges, and observe how they work. And it's through those experiences that I came back knowing that I need to revise the reward scheme or incentive scheme, or I need to relook at their performance management. So that's where you get insights and then you come back with the HR interventions needed to help them and help the business grow.
I love that. It's maybe other companies that I interacted with has the same thing, but I'm just not aware of it. I think it's a good lesson to be at the front line to understand what exactly is going on. This is done at the policy level because, well, employee being employee, I wouldn't imagine any HR to put out a hand and say, okay, today let me follow my salespeople. I think your boss would be like, why are you going out? Why are you leaving your desk? But I think at the policy level, it does allow the HR to better understand. Because when you talk about, especially in today's term, we talk about a lot of business partnering. You need to know the business before you can partner with the business. Last question before we go into the questions that we really want to touch on today. You mentioned about going into a PhD program. May I understand the discipline that you're going into or you went into?
Oh, I just started my classes in February. So I'm actually doing something on AI adoption, understanding the technology acceptance, and also kind of personality or mindset that's required in order for people to be more open to embrace AI. And then, indirectly understanding how people prepare for the future, basically. What kind of mindset, what kind of personality that would they need to sort of like adjust themselves and be ready. To me, it doesn't matter whether it's IR 4.0, 5.0 or whatever. As long as you have the right mindset, the digital mindset, the agile mindset, the growth mindset to learn, continuous learning, you don't have to worry about anything seriously. That's my perspective in this research.
And that makes you the perfect person to speak with today because we are going to touch on looking into the crystal ball to gaze about what the future may come, to give everyone listening or watching this podcast a sense of where we might be heading and adjust their direction accordingly. In consideration of your past experience, what you have read about, and also being at the forefront of all these things, which I would imagine it includes the experience and exposure to the past 13 panel discussion that you were on recently. Let's talk about the future of work. What are some of the top 3 critical trends that you think companies should really start paying attention to?
I'll probably give you 3 to 5 from the top of my mind. I would list this. Number 1 being no-brainer, AI, and automation. Okay. Not a day will pass without the mention of AI, either as a friend or a foe, right? Depends on what lens you put on. So machines have increasingly handled routine tasks, right? Freeing human capacity for more complex work and more personalized touch points. Out of those conferences, 12 or 13 conferences that I've invited to speak this half year, 100% of them will ask me this question about job displacement. We don't need to worry really about FOBO. FOBO is fear of obsolescence or job displacement. Like I mentioned earlier, we braved through IR 3.0, 4.0 and all that. We need not really worry about job displacement. I think what we need to worry about is ignorance, right? Ignorance or the reluctance to build AI skills or to actually try out AI. At one recent conference, I had people from Papua New Guinea, Mauritius, Maldives as well, attending this, Brunei as well, attending the conference. And we're surprised some of them have not even tried ChatGPT. So the question is, have you? I've actually tried out personally 12 apps from notes taking, minutes taking, because I attend classes, so I'm lazy to take notes. Oh, I do have 3 AI that capture notes for me because different AI capture different nuances. Flights, right? Or analysis to design or, ideation sparring. And from my years experience, right? My years experience helped me to sharpen my prompts to the Gen AI. To say that I will replace this, I don't think it's founded in that sense. We don't have to worry about FOBO. But because my experience helped me to actually prompt the right questions and to say, okay, give me this kind of angle or this perspective. And then if the generation of the AI or the answers come more valuable and meaningful. So that's on the personal front. Now, if we were to talk from the corporate side, I think what we need to do in this space of AI is to prepare the workforce with the digital and AI skills. There are plenty courses actually in Google, Microsoft, Coursera, LinkedIn. And we also need to embrace human-machine work collaboration. Number 2 is to enable and provide platform for employees to use AI tools. Example, open up the usage of AI. Some companies still block it or even allow what I would call BYOD, right? Bring your own device. Now I think it's about bring your own AI, correct? And of course, with certain governance and data protection in place, we probably need to revamp policy to facilitate the AI usage. And some companies already included Microsoft Copilot as part of their Microsoft applications. The third one, from a corporate perspective, is to promote AI-driven process automation. More importantly, is the decision making from the perspective of analysis and decision making, from prescriptive or descriptive kind of analysis to predictive kind of analysis. And that will result in a faster and more discerning judgment and decision making. The second trend I see in the last few years, especially when I was in the bank, is the green shift, the focus on sustainability as one of the key agenda. And with that means that there is a need for us to drive the skill set in ESG or understanding the circular economy principles. Many organizations like the manufacturing FIs have been buying or building sustainability talent pool. People like in marketing, comms, HR, relationship managers, they are being skilled already on this or reskilled on ESG and sustainability. Reporting are now integrated to include financials and sustainability matrix. So the question will be, have you, those of you in talent acquisition, talent management, or have your learning curriculum, your rewards mechanism, have you switched it into a green shift then, right? The trend I see that's picking up and will continue is the rise of the hybrid workplace. So that remote and flexible work is a norm. The question will be, is it a permanent norm? Well, people are already talking about 4 days work week, right? So today, people have many choices. Is employee market at the senior level or experience level? So all the different generations are now congregating at the workplace. The common question at interview today is, do you provide hybrid work arrangement, which was unheard of previously, right? So the workplace model and practices will need to evolve. Companies must invest in collaboration tools and remote management strategies. Companies must adapt their policies, technology, and culture to support this flexible model. Policy, right? One of the group HR of a bank, largest bank in Malaysia, said this. They said, does your policy prohibits employees, say, shopping online for 10 minutes? But then you allow smokers to take a puff, right? And you allow smokers to take a puff for the same time or more. Are you one of the senior leaders who still subscribe to full face-to-face meetings and this allows, say, an employee to juggle by remote meeting when family is hospitalized? So I think these are some of the things we need to consider. The fourth trend is about future skills, especially about AI. So the demographic shifts, as well as the AI and ESG skills gap, require a lot of this learning curriculum that needs to be revamped. We looked at upskilling and reskilling initiatives. And AI adoption has increased. I found that AI adoption has increased exponentially globally from 50% in 2022 to 72% in 2024. And with generative AI showing a sharp spike from 33% to 65% from 2023 to 2024. You see the shift that has happened in terms of future skills. So this rise of AI, even in ASEAN country, is a defining moment for us. In total, there's about USD 1 trillion investment that will drive the GDP by 2030 for ASEAN countries. And you would have read, right, in the papers, the multi-billion investments by tech giants into ASEAN. For example, Singapore, you had like 2 billion, Microsoft investing 1.7 billion in Indonesia for new client AI infrastructure. Malaysia, they will have also 2.2 billion USD in terms of creating AI skills opportunity, having a national AI center for excellence. Google also 2 billion, the first data center in the Google Cloud region in Malaysia. ByteDance as well, 10 billion. Nvidia, 4 billion. And then Singapore, I think you have got Google and Microsoft also USD 2 billion. In Thailand, Google, Microsoft, AWS, Amazon Web Services, about 8 billion kind of investment. The World Economic Forum also, during my research, I found that they envisioned that 85 million jobs will be displaced, but then 97 million new jobs will emerge. We don't need to worry about we being obsolete or displaced. We need to be worried if our skills are obsolete. So the future skills will require us to conduct skills gap, identify future needs, reskill, upskill, foster a culture of lifelong learning and continuous learning, promote the human-machine learning and collaboration, simplify, like gamify the learning or digital and AI, so that it's exciting and not too daunting on people. I think the fifth one I see thanks to grab within this region is the gig economy expansion. Businesses will rely more on freelance and temporary workers, the way I see it. The question would be, is our policy in HR or the business policy, the talent acquisition, the rewards practices, whether we have the kind of mindset, open-mindedness to actually accept such kind of employees, and how do the gig workers and the permanent workers work hand in hand? What kind of roles and responsibility that's required on both parties? How do you contain the knowledge base? So I think these are the 5 that I can think of in terms of the future of work.
Thank you so much for your clear elaboration. Based on your exposure to the different companies you may have spoken with, especially recently, in consideration of the 5 different trends that you mentioned, where do you think they are? Do you think they are well equipped right now to take on all these different trends coming to them at the same time? If not, what do you think is actually impeding them from trying to stay afloat and ensure that they are able to take care of all these trends?
From what I see from my friends or interactions with people at conferences and with other professionals, what I find is that organizations, the larger ones, are more ready. They are already embracing AI. Some even at the global front, like 2 years ago, doing white paper about, once when the ChatGPT came about. When I went for conferences, I would look at Microsoft. They already have clients embracing Copilot within their Microsoft applications. A lot of companies are doing that. And they're actually, what I'm seeing from the local front here is that they're actually educating the SME to also embrace that in whatever small, budget or whatever budget or smaller scale that they can. So to your question, I don't know the numbers or percentage, right? I think it's still at early stage, but the larger ones are already embracing that and building it into the so-called Microsoft application. That's what I can see. And SME, I think, are being educated, in terms of that.
Since the timeline would come to everyone at the same time, what advice would you have for the SME that are still just trying to figure things out, whereas their MNC competition or non-competition already using those tools to make the best of their future?
I think in terms of SMEs, the beauty about SMEs is they are nimble and they are niche in their offerings. So when it comes to embracing AI or skilling, right, getting their people or workforce ready, because if they're not, right, then their employees will still leave them because they're not getting the kind of exposure or support in terms of upskilling themselves in AI and digital skills. But I guess the SME can actually compete or leverage on online learning platforms. You can see that even Google, Microsoft, LinkedIn, they provide free courses. They also can partner with some educational institutions. There are a lot of institutions now looking out for people where they can actually use those companies as test cases on AI development or research. They can also look into project-based learning, right, exchange of talent. That's what large organizations do, but I think SMEs should not deprive themselves, but really looking at some of these good practices and then work towards it. What the other SME could do is leverage on, say, for example, like Malaysia, we have got the HR development funds. I think in Singapore, You'll have the future skills framework to refer to. Malaysia is also working on that already. There are some segments we already have. But there's also tax reliefs and incentives, right, provided by Singapore and Malaysia government, for example. I think Singapore, you all have like for the year 2023, you have 5,500 or something like that in terms of the ability for you to actually claim for courses like studies, seminars, or conferences. In Malaysia, recently, our HR Development Corporation actually conducted 25,000 free training courses during a 1-week national training week. Over 27,000 people benefited. I was one of the trainer as well, giving HR related training. Me and 23 others, CHRO, actually contributed to this nation building. So I think organizations can actually leverage on these kind of opportunities. I remember each of the session, we actually had about 100 over people or 200 over people signing up for that kind of online training.
That's interesting. And I also want to go back to your earlier point on gig worker. Gig worker, of course, is not a new term. We've been exposed to it for the longest time. But of course, exposure to it has been very limited. You have your Grab drivers, you have your delivery riders. But to really permeate into an organization, I think it is still very piecemeal right now. What are some of the other use cases that you have seen within organizations that are trying to ramp up or to widen the kind of engagement with a gig worker or freelancer? Just to give people some examples of, oh, okay, actually such arrangement could work as well.
So this freelance work was already in place many years back, especially for IT folks. When I was in BAT, I was in one of my portfolio, I was taking care of the IT. At that point of time, the SAP consultants were very expensive if you were to hire them permanently. We addressed that by contracting these SAP consultants on a piecemeal or contractual basis. So they either operate under a so-called outsourced HR provider, or they operate as a sole proprietor, so to speak. So there are many options. So you just contract, it's called contract for service instead of contract of service. Contract of service means you're a permanent employee, but contract for service means I contract you. So it's not something new, but I think this gig worker concept came about much more, especially with riders and so on. But in the past, it's been very common among the IT outfit already. Not something new for those in IT.
IT has always been there in a very freelance, fractional kind of basis. I think in some way, I'm also seeing at the C level where there are a lot more people becoming your fractional CFO, fractional CMO, CTO, so to speak. And that seems to be permeating as well. I just want to segue into the next aspect, which I think it's broadly touched on earlier on, which is on the skilling part. Skilling has been mentioned, at least in Singapore, to the extent where we actually have a stat board called Skills Future. And I think that's also something that WEF has been mentioning for the longest time. What are the skills to take note of when it comes to 2030 and all that kind of stuff? But I also do realize the timeline that they usually put out is quite long term. They'll tell you, okay, right now it's 2024. These are the skill sets you should acquire by 2030. Going back to what we said earlier on, the world is really moving much faster. You can't really accurately predict what's going to happen 5 years, 6 years from now. So based on your lens, what are some of the more critical skills that you believe everyone, perhaps especially the HR department, should start adopting?
I think I talk a lot about the tech skills that you need, like digital AI. I think you need to know how to really do digital transformation because project management and so on, right? You need to pick up like trends or agile or something like that. So maybe we can segue to human skills beyond tech skills to move from now onwards. We need to learn how to make full use of AI technology or digital technology that we have. I would like to quote WEF as you mentioned. They found that actually the cognitive skills is the one that's really top in the position. The human power from the machines are really our cognitive skills, right? And that is analytical skills and also the human touch and creativity. Without the human touch or empathy, the analytical skills, creativity, the so-called Gen AI or is as good as it is, that much they can provide. But it's only us applying the outcome from there, how you convert from the prescriptive data into something where they can actually study trend. Then how do you convert into something that's useful for you? So that's why you need, and also your business savviness, right? How do you then convert that trend into something that you want to apply at work? How can you be more creative about it? If you have the customer data, how do you harmonize those data? How you relate to the customers, right? What would actually be needed for them? Those are some of the things that I would rank high in terms of the self-efficacy skills, which is agility, resilience, flexibility, self-awareness, motivation. And then the other one they talk about is lifelong learning and curiosity, which is, I would say, to me, part of my research is how well do you adopt or how well do you adapt? How well do you anticipate the future? And then do you actually take action or not about it? No? I think this kind of mindset, agile mindset, digital mindset, or growth mindset is the one that would influence us in terms of adoption or acceptance or our willingness to embrace new things that come. Today, these next 2 years could be AI. God knows what else. Someone will create something. Maybe 3 or 5 years later, we just don't know. There's a AI tsunami or there could be something else. I think underlying all this, these are the soft skills that is really, really important. The other one is collaboration, right? So EQ, IQ, I would say, is really very critical in terms of the kind of skill set beyond the technical skills.
It still seems like a long list, but something that you mentioned about curiosity and also
Mhm.
self-awareness, I think if we have that combination, it would definitely help everyone to figure out what am I
Yeah.
lacking in, and then how can I look at filling those gaps.
Mm.
If you can look at what exactly you're trying to deliver, what's your output, you can always reverse engineer from there and see
Mm.
what would I require in order to make this easy.
Mm.
If this is going to be easy, what kind of situation, what kind of skill sets would I require? That hopefully would allow everyone or most people to have the answer.
Can I share my personal experience when I embark on this research or PhD that I was doing? Sometimes you need to get information, you Google, sometimes it's very difficult, or you do research. But then you hear people say, oh, this AI can help you do this. I was like, wow, so many AI tools to learn. Then I end up with 12, right? Now I know which AI tool is for what. I actually follow Instagram, a few of them about AI, what kind of tools is out there, and what kind of AI would help, what kind of application of work. I went through that kind of thinking like, oh my God, so many. Oh my God, how am I going to try to do this? What are the steps? But actually, the AI is very friendly in the sense. Sometimes you can just ask, how do I get around doing this? So it's about curiosity, the curiosity to learn or to try out. And the awareness that, oh, I have this gap, but I need to do this. And then the courage to actually try. When you have the curiosity and the courage to try, everything is done. So I end up with 12 AIs that I'm now familiar with.
And hopefully, if we were to do a part 2, we can discuss more about those 12 AI. Thank you so much for coming onto the show. We really love to have you on the show again to share more about your learnings as well as your journey. But before I let you go, we are going into a rapid fire segment where I'll ask you some questions and then you can just reply off the top of your head, short and sweet. If it's okay, then I will proceed. The first question, work from home or work from office?
Hybrid,
In a short sentence, describe your leadership philosophy.
purpose and value-driven leadership will be from great to greatest, and that would give you unparalleled distinction.
What is the best or even the worst HR advice you have ever received?
That's one by Peter Drucker. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. With any strategy or business transformation or digital transformation agenda whatsoever, gain commitment, not compliance, align with business goals, inspire with purpose and values, and don't forget to celebrate success.
Name one HR trend or innovation that excites you the most.
I would say hashtag AI future of work, how one's mindset steers one towards growth. And that's part of research, as I mentioned. To me, agile, digital, and growth mindsets collectively drive organizational success. So regardless of whatever IR 4, 5, whatever, we will ace it now with the right mindset.
Last question. What is the most common HR myth or misconception you want to debunk?
I want to debunk that HR is stuffy. People is truly an asset, right? Because people will impact revenue. Engaged employees can generate 17 to 21% more profitable sales and revenue growth. Data-driven people analytics on effective HR initiatives can bridge skills gap, can promote wellness. If we invest in learning, you get like 20 over higher profit margin. Johnson's J&J, for example, their wellness program saved the company 200 over million over a decade, right? So all these are substantiated by Gallup and Harvard Business Review. effective talent and succession management, mitigates operational risk, and drive growth. Just look at Satya Nadella. He's an internal succession. He replaced Steve Ballmer, right? And he grew Microsoft share price by tenfold since 2014 when he was appointed the CEO. So I would say HR is not about fluff. It's about data-driven decisions that help enhance tangible organizational success.
Thank you so much for the roundup. For people who may be keen to learn more about yourself and what you do, where can they go to?
Oh, go to LinkedIn. Khim Tan, KhimTan. I'm quite active in LinkedIn. I think I've got about 25,000 followers. So you can catch me there and I will diligently reply to everyone, as I always do.